Hi everyone and welcome to our video. My name is Martin McAndrew and I'm the founder here at Bluethirst. We make digital ads work. So this is part of our Make Ads Work series, and today we're going to be diving into how can you stop your accountancy business from getting lost in the crowd. So it's actually New Year's Eve today, and tax season in the UK is approaching quite rapidly. So there are potential business owners out there in the market looking for new accountant firms, but also due to this increased demand, the market is quite saturated with ads from accountancy firms. So how would you make your accountancy firm stand out from the crowd? We're going to look at best practice, and we're going to give you some great hints and tips on how to stand out, and we're also going to show you some firms that are maybe already doing a great job that you can take some inspiration from. Cool, so let's jump straight into it. Okay, so my first big tip is stop talking about your practice. I kind of learnt this the hard way through Bluethirst. We're great at what we do. We achieve fantastic results through our digital marketing campaigns, but by me telling people, they don't really believe me. And unfortunately, that's the same thing that you guys are going to face. What you need to think about is, what do you as an accountant actually do for that buyer, that person who's paying for your services? So my accountant, he helps me sleep better at night because I know that HMRC aren't going to come after me because I've filed everything on time, 100% accurately. My accountant also ensures that my filings are correct, so I can concentrate on my business. I know it's done, I send it off, I get monthly reports, I get quarterly meetings. That's all being handled, so I don't need to use any brain space on accounts. I can use that time to run and grow my business. My accountant is also an expert in things like innovation tax relief, so I know that I'm investing my money back into my business in the most effective way. So what you need to start thinking about is, what are you actually doing for your clients? If they're a huge business, if you're servicing very large companies, you're probably going to be doing something very, very different to maybe a self-employed person or a small high street accountant. So really think, what are your services? What problems are your services solving for your businesses that you work for? Okay, let's start looking at the numbers. Companies and customers, we kind of don't really change accountants that often. It's normally there'll be specific times in their life, so they're starting out, they've maybe outgrown an accountant, or there's been an issue with their current provider. So if your messaging is always sell, 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 you're going to be irrelevant for most of your potential customers most of the time. So if we do the numbers actually on that, if everyone changed their accountants, say every 5 years, this would mean that on any given month when you're running your marketing, only 1.6% of your audience is ready to switch. So that means that 98.4% of your potential customers are not going to be interested in your sales message at that time. And that is a huge percentage of a market to waste. So what can you do? There are some common things that everyone who uses or needs an accountant is potentially interested in. So the first thing we're going to talk about is building your brand. Now, I've worked in digital marketing for more years than I like to think about, and we used to always say that brand building is what you would say if a campaign failed. So if you didn't hit the number of leads or the cost per lead or the audience that you wanted to, the kind of default excuse was, at least it was great brand exposure. I've kind of softened on that a little bit now because, as we said, our last stat where 98% of our customers aren't ready to purchase, that's the market we're spreading our branding message to. So what we're going to look at is some channels that are super cheap to produce content and distribute content on, that your potential marketplace are actively engaged in. So we're going to look at, first of all, a great accountant who's using Twitter very well at the moment. So this is accountingweb.co.uk and their Twitter profile. So they are an accountancy business based in Bristol, and they've built up a fantastic following since 2009 of 32,500 followers. And actually, if we look at what they're doing, they're not selling. So what they're doing here is they're posting articles that would be of interest to their customers. So the two biggest articles of the year: Countdown was the news that an accountant and director was arrested over £70,000 of furlough fraud. They're talking about letters that have actually been written to companies' employees about the CJRS claims. None of these are, look how great we are, look how good our services are. There's nothing about pricing. Actually, what they're doing with all of this content is just proving they're an expert. So if you are looking for an accountant in Bristol, they're going to be your number one choice, because they've shown actually, with their branding message, that they are aware of all of the news that's happening. And actually, if that's the sort of accountant you need, their Twitter profile and the 32,500 people that are following is a great way to get your branding message very, very cheaply out in front of your potential customer base. Okay, so this is another thing to look at. So these are Facebook groups. So you can go and you can join specific groups about your vertical sector. So this one is Accountants of the Future. So there's 1,000 people in this group, and they're posting, I did see the number, it was about 13 posts a month, so you're not going to get your Facebook feed overrun. But this is a good way of understanding maybe what's happening in your marketplace. But actually, in terms of you marketing, not the greatest. However, setting up and running your own Facebook group. So this is an example. This one's called UK Small Business Owners, and it's in partnership with Rise Up Social. So what they're doing basically is they've built a group. People, so 22,500 members have joined this group, and as part of joining, you'll be talking to other small business owners within a group, and they're using that data then to offer their services. So if you ran a very local accountancy, so if you were on a high street and your target market were the businesses within, a 2-mile radius, you could set up a business owners group for that group. And remember, we're doing branding here. This is not selling to these people. But if you've got, if there's someone who brings up a question about a tax question, you could answer that, and then you can start forming a relationship with that person. But if you can own the group, you can own all the data from it, and then there are other things that you can then do with that data, which we can discuss on another video. But again, no media cost, bit of time. You're going to have to market the group a little bit, but a really great way to start engaging with your customers in a really nice, very low cost way. So LinkedIn offers a very similar structure, so similar sort of groups. So I've looked at small businesses here, and there are a number of small business groups that exist. I tend not to find that groups in LinkedIn work as well as they do on Facebook. They tend to work better vertical sectors. So this is people who work in accounts and auditing. There's 131,000 people are part of this group. But that's not really where your customers are going to sit. And the small business groups, I just tend to find LinkedIn is very, very spammy in groups. So it's maybe worth trying, but actually for this sort of marketing, I would stick to Facebook. Okay, so if you're the accountancy expert in your field, whether it's auditing the accounts for huge companies like Coca-Cola, or if you're a small high street accountant and you know everything about the local area, you should be writing that content down, and you should be distributing that to the people that's of interest. So this is a great example of probably the higher end scale. So this is a cloud accounting blog. So it's all the guys very much into the cloud software of accountancy, and he produces regular articles. So let's look at the frequency. So he's done one a couple of days ago. He's done one in, the next one, November. So he's producing about a blog post a month. And if that was very targeted, either super local, so I live in Bournemouth, and if we're talking about things that accountants would be aware of in Bournemouth, so we've just lost a big department store. So we might be talking to small businesses about, are there opportunities now a big department store's gone that you can maybe start trying to get in front of the customers that would have just gone to a department store, for example. If you're writing that very super laser focused content because super laser focused who your customers are, you need to be writing that down. And a great way that you can also repurpose content, which this guy does very, very well, is to produce a podcast off the back of it as well. So if you're writing a huge long blog post, not everyone has time to read it. Some people will want to listen to it. All you need is a relatively simple setup where you can record it. There are platforms out there that can host it. It's not a huge technical undertaking to do. But if you're producing content, for the sake of reading it and getting it into a podcast form and getting in front of another audience, again, for very, very little extra work. So for me to take a blog post and record it is maybe an hour's worth of work, and I can get in front of many hundreds or thousands of more people with an extra half an hour's worth of work. So it's definitely worth looking at. Okay, so I get it. Not everyone has the time and the resource to produce large amounts of content and go down that no media fee approach. So there is another way. This is kind of what Blue Thirst does. So we work with Google Ads, Facebook Ads, TikTok, LinkedIn, to design campaigns that spend media budget to get in front of the right types of people. And actually what we're talking about here is no longer branding, because I don't want to spend media budget necessarily to build my brand. I'm quite good at doing that organically. What I want to do is to spend media budget on getting results. Okay, so for me that would be a hot lead for an accountancy firm. So we're going to talk about the top channels that we would recommend doing using for accountancy leads. So the first one that we're going to talk about is Google Ads. Okay, so Google Ads. This is what most people think about when we talk about Google Ads, and it's specifically text ads that are based around a keyword. So without getting too complicated, the way the system works is you pick a deck of keywords, and when somebody searches for that, if you've bid high enough, you'll get to show a text ad, which then links off to a landing page. So here's an example of accountants, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I've also got some local listings. These are not paid, and these then beneath here are your organic or your SEO results. So what we're talking about when we talk about Google text ads are these paid for ads that are paid per click. So if I was to click on Helpbox UK's ad, that company would get charged probably between £3 and £9 for that click. So I'm going to show you a little bit more that we can do on Google Ads. So search we've kind of discussed. You've also got display, which is using the Google Content Network. So what that is if you own a website, you can rent a little space on that website to Google, and then advertisers can place banners on that space. You can pick the places you put your ads either by keyword. So you might want small business forums. You might target within London if you're a London-based accountant. You can place a banner advert. You might run a remarketing ad, which means if somebody's come to your site, you serve them an ad on a kind of a drip feed campaign to keep them in the loop of who you are. Shopping ads aren't suitable for this one. Video, if you wanted to push a video on YouTube, you can run video-specific ads. Apps aren't really suitable. Smart campaigns, will do a separate video on smart campaigns. Local can be good if you want to drive people to a location. With the whole kind of issues we're having at the moment, that's not such a usable ad at the moment. And then discovery, again, I would stay away from it at this stage. But what I want to do is talk about our text ads a little bit more. So what we can do is we can look for terms, and just to give you an idea, this is London. So let me just change that back to the United Kingdom. There we go. So the great thing is you can be quite specific down to a postcode of where you want to target. So accountants get on average 33,100 searches per month, and this is what it looks like over a 12-month period. Get that to put back again. There we go. So yeah, we can see that towards the end of the year it grows. There's a peak in February. That looks like January. Sorry, so we tend to get 31,000, and then it grows up in September. It's highest at 40,000. That's for the whole UK. But you'll be expecting to pay. Remember, it was pay per click every time that somebody clicked on one of those ads. You'll be paying around £2.50 to £9.68 per click. So that means if you only convert 1% of that traffic to a customer, it's going to cost you between £247 and £968 per customer. So if you're going to go down this route, you can't be sending traffic to a shoddy website. You've got to have a pipeline, a landing page, everything optimized, so that if you're investing large amounts of money, and there's a whole science behind this. It's what I've been doing most of my adult life, on how to make sure that a relatively high bid price, you can be competitive and you can make it commercially viable. The other place to look at, so the great thing the kind of thing we can look at is, you might just say, right, well actually I only want to target people in Southampton because I'm a local accountant. So we can now see that there are 70 searches on average per month. The graph's a little bit different, but we can look for other terms. So bookkeeping, personal tax accountant has a higher search volume. HMRC, personal tax account, maybe not as suitable, but we can start seeing other terms that are a little bit cheaper. So accountant near me is very expensive, but tax accountant is a little bit less. So you can play around with how much you pay per keyword versus what the keyword is. Then the other thing to look at is Google Trends, and this will show you in a bit more detail how keywords have performed over time, and it will also give you some other related keywords. So within the accountancy space, one of the largest related queries is accountancy jobs. So the first thing you're going to want to do when you set up your account, if you're not offering jobs in accountancy, is add jobs as what's called a negative keyword. So if you add a negative keyword, jobs, that means if somebody types accountancy, you'll come up. But if they append that query with jobs, you won't come up. So you'll save your budget for job seekers, which is a super important thing to do if you're spending £9 per click. You don't want to spend £1,000 on getting people to the site who are actually looking for accountancy jobs. So Google Ads is a great tool. It does take media budget, and I'm not sure the best way to put this. If you're not sure what you're doing, the whole Google Ads system is very good at making you spend money. You need to be quite experienced, especially in a market like this, which has relatively, they're not as high as some CPCs, cost per clicks, but £10 per click is a lot of money to get one person to a site. So you need to make sure you've got an efficient campaign really before diving into this as a channel. So the most efficient channel probably still today is email marketing. It really is the most cost efficient way to reach customers in these sorts of segments, especially kind of B2B. The issue you're going to face is, how do you then build up your customer database so you've got somebody to send emails to. There are some really great techniques out there which are 100% legal and 100% GDPR compliant. So we'll do a separate video on email marketing in the future. But yeah, email marketing would be one of if I was building a multi-channel strategy for an accountancy firm, email would definitely be one of the channels that I would be looking in. And again, going back to the content stuff that we spoke about, it would be talking about things that are useful for the customers. Not always sell. If you can stay in front of a customer when they're ready to buy, they will come to you, rather than you forcing them, which doesn't tend to work. The next channels we're going to look at are how we can use social media adverts for accountants. Okay, so the only social channel that I would really recommend putting budget behind for accountants is Facebook. So Facebook also owns Instagram. They also own WhatsApp and some other things as well. But what you can do, which is fantastic on Facebook at the moment, is you can run what are called lead generation ads. So normally what happens is you click on an advert and that takes you off to a landing page. Now on Facebook make money obviously from their advertising, but they make more money if they can get a customer to interact or engage with multiple adverts during its session. So that's their business model. So if they run an advert that you click on and you disappear off of Facebook, that session ends. So the profit they make from that session also ends, which is why the cost per click of Facebook has been increasing over the last, 3 or 4 years. And a number of people are now finding it a little bit too expensive to continue running those ads because their conversion rates aren't high enough, so their cost per acquisition becomes too high, so the whole channel becomes too expensive to run. The nice thing about lead generation ads are you don't take somebody off of Facebook. Okay, so Facebook has an opportunity to run multiple of these adverts, so it can monetize the session of a person on Facebook or Instagram multiple times. So this means the adverts are cheaper, which is great, because if we have a cheaper in cost and we have a good conversion rate, we have a cheaper new client cost. Now, there are some tricks with this because it can be a little bit funny, but if you get it right, it's fantastic, because what you can do is somebody will leave their contact details. So if you could run a campaign which says, we've now left Europe, here are the 5 things that you should be aware of as a small business owner come January the 1st. And what someone would do is they would leave their contact details to get that piece of document. You can write terms and conditions that says, you're giving us your personal details. We'll send you carefully selected messages in the future, and you can word it so it's GDPR compliant. You can get people to opt in. You can go through all the legalities to make sure that it's a customer on your database that you're happy to have and is happy to be on that database. But that person requests a piece of information. You email that out, and that can all be done automatically. So there are tools. Facebook has actually just released its own customer relationship management tool, but you can plug things in like Zapier. So Zapier can plug directly into Facebook, and that can plug into most customer databases. So someone enters their details, you take that person into your CRM, you give them the initial document or whatever they requested for that initial giving of their customer details. You can then create a pipeline of things that you do to that person as you warm them up to become a customer. So at a real simple level, it could be you send them the document. You could send them the document, then someone could chase them up and just say, just want to check it came through. Do you feel you're ready for Europe? That's kind of quite a hard sell. Or you could just put them onto a maintenance email program where maybe once a quarter or once every 6 months they get the latest document. Again, not salesy, but just reminding them, remember, it's only 1.6% of people are ready to buy. How do you talk to the other 98% with email? You're not selling hard, but you're just reminding them, we're great accountants, we know what we're doing, and that's what your email marketing becomes. So our top tip is definitely, if you're going to run a media campaign, look to Facebook lead generation. Give me a shout, because there are some little idiosyncrasies. So I've spent thousands of pounds of more than thousands of pounds on LinkedIn lead gen ads over the last couple of years, and there are some key things you've got to do. So one of the big issues that you'll find is that Facebook does an autofill. So they'll autofill a phone number, autofill an email address, and actually that might be the email address and the phone number that people had when they were 15. I think I set up my Facebook account. I just left university, so I must have been 19 at the time. A few years have gone past, but it's still my original email, and I think my original phone number. I'll need to check that. But if you were to phone that now, it wouldn't connect to me. So there are some key things you need to do to make sure that the data quality that you get is good. And then you need to make sure you've got a nice pipeline set up as well. So if that's something that you're looking at doing, either drop me a message, or I'm on Twitter, or even better, if you subscribe to if you like this video, press the bell button so you get notifications, or even head over to bluethirst.co.uk and you can sign up to our drip email platform, which is every day, we release a new digital marketing story. So every day things are changing on Facebook and LinkedIn and Google and SEO. Every day we release it's normally a couple of minutes long of the latest change. And then every week we email out all of our potential customers that we're warming up with a EastEnders omnibus style email address of all the latest topics that are happening that digital marketing managers who we're interested in would want to receive. So if you would like that, head over to Blue Thirst, fill in the newsletter request form, and we can start sending you regular information about digital marketing. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that video, and I hope to see you again soon.